Okay, thanks very much, Alla. Good to be here. And so why don't we just get right into it? Got quite a few slides to go over. So um, my primary objective here is to give away my own techniques and tools I use. And so by the end of this presentation, you should be able to just take what I'm giving you and you should be able to run and implement it right away. So hopefully you will. So what is copywriting? There's all kinds of technical definitions, but what it really comes down to is the ability to persuade people to buy, opt in, share, like, etc. through the written word, pictures, audio, video, or other media. And in addition, sometimes it's just used for branding where there's no CTA there whatsoever. We just want to build brand awareness. But the primary question that we all have to ask before we start writing any copy is what's in it for me? That's what the prospect wants to know, and that's what we have to answer. Sometimes people replace what's in it for me with um, tell me why I should care. That's another one, very commonly used. And what I like to do, if any of you have had a Psych 101 class, you've probably seen this pyramid diagram, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I like to paste on the wall or wherever I'm working on my copy, and because what I want to do is align my messaging as much as possible with at least one of these tiers, if not more. But never try to, never try to fit a square peg into a round hole. If what you're selling does not fit a specific category, um, maintain your integrity and don't try to misrepresent what your product can do. So let's start with the logical starting point with any promotion, which is the headline. And for the past 4 or 5 decades now, many copywriters and actual psychologists who do experimental testing have consistently identified these 5 power words that are very effective in writing a headline. So let's go through them really quickly. The reason why you and your is so powerful is because it implicitly creates the idea that you're having a one-on-one conversation. And it's very powerful, especially when you're trying to build intimacy with a customer. Personalization is all the craze right now, and for good reason. So there's many applications for you and yours. And one that comes to mind right now on the B2C end would be a feminine hygiene product. And on the B2B end, people tend to really identify with their title in a corporation. So it becomes part of their self-esteem and part of their identity. So using a you or your in a headline for a B2B promotion is also typically very effective. Now, free is free, but it actually means a little bit more than that because it's implying as the prospect sees that as a zero-sum gain in their favor, meaning I'm going to get something and I'm not going to have to give anything back. And we know that's really not true. Typically, we're going to at least give away our email address, but that's sort of how that relationship is sort of established in the prospect's mind. And because is real powerful, because no pun intended there, what it's doing is it's providing the rationale for you. So it's making you not have to work to find out what the value proposition is. So whenever we can do the work for the prospect, including their own thinking, it's always a good idea. And excuse me, imagine, what imagine's really doing, imagine is actually a prehistoric idea. And I don't even say that in jest because before we had the written word, we had the story that were passed on from generation to generation. And what the story does is it paints an ideal picture of an ideal world with an ideal product, and it invites you in. So imagine is a really potent product for or not a product, but an important application to that end, just for that very reason. Whenever you can tell a story and invite a customer into it, you are already kind of pulling them into your own thinking. And new implies there's information I have to have. So people like to, like to have new information for that very reason. What am I missing out on? It also plays to their self-esteem, which they often act out on social media. Hey, guess what I just found, kind of thing. So next, we're going to go through some real-world examples of those, but with a twist. So the first one using you. Here we have saying the phrase, I hear you, doesn't work if you follow it with this word. So what's going on there is there's a teaser here because like, what is that? What is this special word? So it's really compelling you to click to find out. And then with this ad, free, again, used with a twist, Kim Kardashian loves getting free stuff as a celebrity, right? So we want to know what that free stuff is. Again, it compels us to click. And another twist with because coal jobs have gone up under Trump, but not because of his policies. Again, we need to click to find out what that really means. And then a little modification to imagine using reimagine. Betsy DeVos is helping Puerto Rico reimagine its public school system. That has people deeply worried. Again, what is that? You need to click on it to find out. And then this example with new, a couple of things are going on here. Typically in creating a promotion, we have to sell one of two things. We either have to sell quality or price. But in this case, we get to sell both, which, whenever you can sell quality and price, definitely do it. The only thing I would say, if I was writing this ad, I would have said, HMD unveils its new slate of Nokia Android smartphones starting at just $85. Okay, so what kind of tool do I use to kind of come up with ideas for headlines? I like to use Google News because Google News, first of all, is the fourth largest news portal in the United States. And if you type in anything, using quotes, you get an exact phrase search result. And what's really important about that is you can really, well, a couple of things. Once you can get really, you get really good headline ideas, but also, excuse me here, it's great for competitive research. So you can really follow your competitors and what they've been up to in the last 24 hours. Excuse me. Oops. Okay, in terms of writing product descriptions, a lot of times we get canned language from our vendors if we're a retailer. So a good little trick is to go to a product review and use their words and incorporate them into your own product descriptions. In this case, in those red box, I've identified a few. This was actually coming from a tire company. And then in terms of features, I always like to bullet my features. What is your product made of? Where is it made? How is it made? How many people have used it? Any quantifiable features, dimensions, hidden benefits, things like that. And then once you have your list, you want to translate that into benefits wherever you can. So let's say if your product is made in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and you are selling domestically around the country, one of the benefits could be, hmm, made right here in the USA. And you could actually create a nice little logo to showcase that in your copy. Here's another interesting example of what Apple is doing with their MacBook. They're basically turning a boring Me Too feature into something sort of bizarre. So I don't know what Retina re-envisioned means. And in this case, I understand why they're doing it, because they just want to grab your attention so you'll actually read the product description. So a good way to apply this really would be if you have long product descriptions in your online store, uh, think about creating some just somewhat bizarre terms that you could use as subheads to kind of grab their attention, so they actually take the time to read all of the benefits of the product. That is especially important if you're selling, more complex products and products that may be, several $1,000s or something like that. Oops, I think I got, excuse me here, I got just click the wrong place. Okay, there we are. Oop, one more. Now, just to kind of give you the background of how irrational we respond to messages, and messages that are not on their surface even true. Just want to go through them real quickly here. Um, ad hominem is your typical name calling of another person. It works a lot in negative advertising, political ads, things like that. A good example of an argument from authority would be, well, Bill Gates said, so and so, therefore it's got to be right. An argument from ignorance, however, is, whenever you don't know the answer to a question, which is actually very common with us people, we don't know everything. We tend to have a lot of anxiety not knowing. So what we do is we just pick something that seems to make sense to us, even if it's not true. So this is used all the time in marketing. And obviously the bandwagon is everyone's doing it, so I guess I should do it too. This applies really well in providing social proof around a product with a testimonial or a 5-star ranking, things like that. Begging the question could be downright nasty. Um, Good example is, when did you stop beating your wife? What do you mean? I don't beat my wife. In fact, I'm not even married. So what's going on here is an assumption is represented as a fact, even though it isn't a fact. But as you can see, the way they frame the question, they're misrepresenting. However, this can be used very successfully in marketing. And finally, dogmatism. This really manifests well in wherever we have opinions, and everybody has an opinion. Many times our opinions are not based in anything other than it's what we believe. So all of these fallacies are common they're very common in marketing. They're used so often you probably don't even notice them. So let's look at fear as an emotion. Um, we all know fear is used constantly in promotions, especially in political ads. But in this case, like, you could potentially serve up this ad to me. I've been doing marketing for 25 years, and oh my God, am I damaging my email list? Am I making 11 rookie mistakes? I don't think so, but now that they bring it up, maybe there's something that I'm not thinking about. I better click and see if I'm not screwing up somewhere where, I'm not even aware of. And then obviously putting putting the child in the background just creates a more hyperbolic contrast. And the word damaging is hyperbolic too. I've never been able to damage an email list. I might have an old email list, or maybe the subscribes are not up to date, or maybe some of my customers haven't bought from me in 3 years. That's true. But can you really damage an email list? Probably not. But as you can see, it's very effective. And that's what good headlines do, is they just sort of exaggerate to the point where they compel us to take an action. So some of the other popular attributes used in headlines and used throughout messaging. Gratitude manifests all the time in joining rewards programs, where their way of saying thank you for giving an email address is, hey, get 10% off or 20% off, something like that. Greed is actually, by definition, it's a zero-sum game in your favor, which means you don't have to do something, but you're going to get something. So you see this manifest a lot in financial products, gaming, lotteries, things like that. And guilt, believe it or not, actually is super popular among nonprofits who are, save the children, save the whales, the polar bears, things like that. Just totally tugs at your heartstrings, and you see that poor little dog in that cage, and you're like, oh my God, where's my wallet? Anger, again, super popular in political ads, but not exclusive. Like Southwest Airlines has been running a promotion for a couple of years. I'm not sure if they still are, but they got a good, smart marketing team who realized that people really hate paying for baggage fees, and they built a whole ad around it. They were able to, kind of exploit that anger and say, but hey, if you book a flight on Southwest, you don't have to pay for a baggage fee. Very effective. But it was initially, even though it was a positive response at the end and a positive offer, it started with playing on their anger and resentment about having to pay the baggage fee to begin with. So trust, you will see that testimonials and celebrity endorsements. A lot of times those reverse mortgage commercials, senior living or senior services commercials, you see it a lot in. And this other one that came to mind, I just can't think of it right now. But I think you get the idea. That's why celebrities are used, because people trust them. And if you're selling a product that doesn't have a solid brand name behind it, you compensate by bringing in a celebrity to, fill the hole that you have, because you don't have the brand recognition typically. And with exclusivity, the most innovative application of exclusivity I see is if you ever go to a rock concert to see a band or rap star or something like that. Most of the artists offer a VIP pass where you can, give them a few $100, and all of a sudden you get to go backstage and meet them, be with your idol, hang out for a little bit, and get a picture for your social proof, right? Very important to our status. So really interesting and innovative application of using exclusivity to sell. And now I want to go into the greatest sales letter of all time, because I can. And this is a Wall Street Journal sales letter that generated over $2 billion in revenue. And it ran from 1975 to 2003. And a couple of things about it that really, really break the rules. First of all, doesn't use a single picture. Second of all, there's no headline. Third of all, which I just noticed, there's no personalization. It doesn't even say Dear John or Dear Alla. It just says Dear Reader. Okay, so what is it doing? Well, it's telling a story. And basically, the story is about two guys who grew up in the same town, went to the same school, same college, went to work for the same employer, and one became the president and the other became a mid-level manager. So what's the difference as you read through this? It's actually a very long sales letter. I'm just showing you the very top of it. Well, the difference was the guy who was the president subscribed to Wall Street Journal. Uh, so anyway, I recommend highly just Google greatest sales letter. It'll pop up right away and study it. A lot of times there's some experts who are dissecting it phrase by phrase and showing them, what marketing element is being used here and being used there. And I use a lot of pieces from the sales letter and repurpose it into my own promotional materials. So I really encourage you to have a look at it and analyze it in a little more detail. Okay, another pretty creative and innovative way to deal with uh, shopping carts in general and product pages. A lot of times the uh, the text, the description, just is not that exciting. It's competent, but it's not exciting. And in this case, J. Peterman and Company, they make men's and women's apparel. And I just thought this was brilliant because I just wanted to share it. They completely blew off the product description. And instead of the product description, what does it say? It says story. And they write a little micro story for every single product. Again, they're inviting you into an ideal world with an ideal product so you can imagine yourself in that world. Really, really pretty brilliant. And you may give some thought about that and how you could apply that to your own product pages. Okay, this is pretty, oops, looks like my last revision of the presentation didn't get in, but no worries. Uh, Obviously, the timer effect definitely works for scarcity. What I meant to have here, because um, I found this email newsletter this morning, and it was Kohl's with a gift card. And maybe I can email it out later if you guys request it or something. It's really cool because what they do is, oh, okay, it's a gift card, big deal. You go to it, it takes you right to the shopping cart. It has one of these timers. Next to the timer, it tells you how many people bought it today and how many people bought it since the promotion's been running. So it puts that social proof right into the cart, which really helps mitigate with abandoned cart issues, especially with millennials, because there was a huge survey done with millennials, and it identified social proof or testimonials as the second most important reason for them to make a purchase. So highly recommend it, depending on what cart you're using. Find out if you can inject some sort of social proof, even if it's a 5-star review, into the actual cart itself. It'll really help it with conversions. Okay, so reciprocity is just like it sounds. You give me something, I give you something. So we see this play out on rewards programs all the time. And we give an email address, maybe a name, maybe a little bit more, and they give us maybe a 10% or 20% off discount. But there really is an opportunity today to take that to an entirely um, new level. And what I use is two plugins for WordPress and WooCommerce called Super Socializer and MyCred, MyCred. CRED. And once I set up these two plugins, I can give either points or money in real time for things like sharing a product page, liking a page, making a comment, or initiating a product review. It can be extended beyond that. It can be extended to watching a video, just visiting a page. You can really get pretty crazy with it. I haven't found a need to do that, but I have used it for sharing, especially for sharing, commenting, and product reviews. Uh, the really cool thing about it is it's a real-time, um, I would call it a rewards program on steroids. So if you share a page and it says, okay, you share a page, we're gonna give you $5. You share it, you got your $5. You go and you check out, your $5 is there, visible. You don't have to hunt around for it. Right in your shopping cart, and all you do is hit the apply button, and you're good to go. So um, again, it's a Super Socializer and My Cred, but I know there's other ones out there, but just kind of giving you the one that I currently use and I'm very satisfied with. So now, I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of aligning visuals with text. This one, you're going to see, what are the differences? On the left, you got the baby looking forward. On the right, the baby's looking toward the ad copy. And obviously, there's a heat map applied to it. On the left, the only piece of red is right on the face of the baby. It never goes anywhere. On the left, you still have it on the face, but you have it all over the ad copy and all over the CTAs. So by just making this one little tweak to your pictures, you can get a lift. I've seen it like around the 5% increase range. I don't know if there's any hard data on what you can expect on average, but you definitely, I mean, this is pretty much the proof. You're going to definitely get a lift by just making this one subtle change to your ad copy. And the same thing here, except we're just using eye contact. Both women are just looking at the CTAs, and that's it. Now, in this next example, completely different. Here's a Facebook ad. And in this case, I was marketing a Botox treatment. And first problem with Facebook is it's really hard to get the person, the subject in the picture to look up or down. So obviously, we just have her looking straight forward. But a point and worth noting is if you're taking photographs, or you have a photographer doing it for you, always get all the angles. Get the front view, get the person looking up, looking down, looking right, looking left. That way, you're going to be good to go wherever you end up creating your promotion. So you're going to be able to have a picture, a version of that picture where they're looking at the actual CTA. So anyway, a couple of tricks I used here. Some of them are not terribly exciting, but very effective. Book now, mentioned it twice. Save $100. Repetition again, twice. Limited time offer. Everyone does it, but it still works. But finally, what is kind of a trick is the phantom post option, which a lot of people using Facebook don't even know it exists. If you do, you're ahead of the game. But by using the phantom post feature, you'll see in this ad, there is no sponsored by label at the top of the ad, which helps with its authenticity. Anyway, this ad was great. It got a 10% click-through rate, 23% conversion. So just kind of an example of, there's nothing fancy going on here, but at the same time, it's really, really effective. Okay. This one we already kind of covered. It was when I was telling you about the Kohl's gift card, whenever you can put social proof into your cart, it's really going to help with your conversions, get people off the fence. And what I like to do is, next time you go to the grocery store, you got a real shopping cart, and pay attention to how often you'll put something in the cart and then you'll put it back. You probably do it more often than you think. And if you're a total marketing geek like me, you're going to actually pay attention to other people putting stuff back. The only point I'm trying to make is I think there's a perception that there's something seriously wrong if you have, abandoned carts at 10% or something like that. It's not necessarily true. Um, but what can definitely mitigate it is, an example like this, putting some social proof right into your shopping cart. And again, especially for millennials who weigh that factor very, very high in making a purchasing decision. This one I already covered pretty much. It's fairly redundant at this point, but the only point to make here is always show the savings. I like to show it numerically and percentage-wise, and my criticism of this ad would be I would use a different font for the discount and the savings, probably red, just to create more of that contrast to support the savings they're getting. Okay, so finally, how am I doing on time here, guys? Ella, okay. Anyway,
Yes, John, just take your time. Everything is okay.
okay, thank you. All right, so we talked a little bit about the Wall Street Journal sales letter. Although different, here's a good example of a classic sales letter being applied to today's real world. So it all starts with, in my view, if no one can find it easily, it's not worth too much. So oftentimes when we're writing copy, we're also doing SEO at the same time. In fact, we should be. So in this case, this particular product is ranked. It's actually ranked number 3 in organic listings in Google, only behind 2 Home Depot links. So pretty awesome results in the search engines. So let's have a look at the actual copy itself. So here's the top of the page. You got a video with a title, and above the video and directly below the video, you just got benefit, 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 benefit. So in terms of video, I know there's a lot of people who believe incorrectly that you got to spend a lot of money, you got to make a slick video to for it to be effective. This video is 30 seconds long. It features the inventor demonstrating the product, and I just worked with his wife to create a script. She narrated herself, did a great job, and the whole thing was used on an iPhone. And believe it or not, for selling something as mundane as a folding sawhorse, this currently has over 1.1 million views on YouTube. So it really worked well, and I'm really happy for that. So let's have a look at some of the other pieces of this sales letter. So directly below the video, I used the tab feature to create a contrast between features and benefits. So the specs is the label for the feature, and why hide a horse, question mark, is the benefit. And you got to click on it. So I'm engaging the prospect a little bit there to participate in seeing the contrast between features and benefits. Also, asking the question, why hide a horse, in my view, is a lot more engaging than simply benefits. people respond whenever they're asked a question, your neurons start firing more than they were. So that was the thinking behind that. Then after that, just a ton of, I'm only showing 3, but I think there's 24 testimonials, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And with these long sales letters, or classic sales letters, we really don't expect people to read the whole thing. It's just to impress them with all the marketing cred we have for this product. And again, you often have to do that if you don't have a really big popular brand. So that's one great way to compensate. And then underneath there, simple standard value comparison. You know, Hide a Horse has all the checkbox. The competition only has a few checkboxes. And then finally, it is culminated with a nice little friendly letter from the inventor himself, the picture of him smiling, and his real original signature, which really adds to the authenticity of the whole value proposition. And you know, because he was the inventor of this product, um, and the fact that a customer can really identify with the inventor, was why we made the decision to have him put his story into this. Anyway, this promotion has been running for at least 3 years, and it's probably just going to keep running for years. The rankings are great. It sells really well. So one thing to keep in mind, if you haven't done your kind of classic sales letter, uh, it's worth giving it a try. As you know, just creating a custom landing page or something like that, because it does make it easier to rank well too. And you don't have to get fancy. I mean, all I'm doing here is H1, H2, H3, alt tags, meta description, and and you know, tagging the images. That's all I did. Everything else was just free flow copy. Okay, so to wrap it up, I'm just kind of going to go through the list of tools and resources I typically use. And the first one might make you laugh, which is fine. I save my junk mail, and I also subscribe to a lot of newsletters. And I primarily do it because I like to just play around with it when I need to come up with some ideas. And I just look at them and I just like, woo, what pops here? You know, pictures, headlines, you know, how are they presenting the CTAs, selling propositions, things like that. And then Google Alerts, which is sort of like a close relative to Google News. It's free. You sign up, and you know, any kind of topic you want. You know, I would start with your competitors and topics that are important to your business. Set up an alert, and Google will give you results, which, you know, the results are coming from Google News. So everything's pretty fresh, like within about 24 hours. So it just kind of takes that, it makes you be proactive, right? So instead of like, oh, you know, it's been a couple weeks, you know, since I, you know, was kind of like had my thumbprint on the competition real well. This way you just set it up. And if you don't have time, you can just hit the delete button. If you do have time, there it is. Google News, I already went over. Not sure if I mentioned it before, but if you have a blog, definitely submit your blog to Google News, because there's a lot of second tier news sources that use Google News as their primary source of information. So you got an awesome opportunity to get syndicated with your blog post, and and develop your links accordingly, because now you got a chance to get that backlink juice from these posts. So it can help out with SEO, and there is some degree of a viral aspect to it that, you know, again, you just have to set it up once and just let it roll. Let it run. Google surveys, use them a lot. I actually have a post that Promo Republic is going to be posting on their blog about how to write irresistible headlines that I use for that purpose and many other purposes. So in this case, I have a client who is a maid service, and her office manager said, just kind of wondering, well, I wonder how important having green cleaning products would be for us in Chicago. So I just did a quick survey. Cost $10 to get 100 respondents, which I think is a pretty reasonable amount of money and a big enough sample size to be meaningful. And sure enough, it wasn't that big. 7.3% preference. To identify with that. But you got to put this in the context of the actual business. And if they're looking at a 7% potential increase in business, it surely justifies creating a green product page on the site. So I'm a pretty evidence-based guy. I like not to guess. So whenever I can let the facts tell me how to act, it's certainly my preferred way. And let's see. Global Web Index. I mentioned there's a couple of mentions about millennials and how they really love customer reviews or any kind of social proof. Well, this just blew me away. If you look at this diagram, millennials are just crazy mobile users. And as you can see, a lot of them aren't even using a desktop. So what this means is if you're selling millennials, you want to make sure your mobile funnel is really, really optimized. And this research was just delivered to my inbox. So once you sign up for Global Web Index, it's free to sign up. You'll get these reports emailed to you every day. And again, if you don't have time or it's not a topic you're interested in, it takes 2 seconds to hit the delete button. But again, I like to be proactive. I like stuff to be pushed out to me, and then I can determine whether it's important to me to look at or not. SEMRush, free and paid versions. Again, this is great for getting stats on your competitors' websites. As you can see, it's broken down by channels: direct, referral, search, social, mail, and display. What it also does is it'll show you the keywords they're going after on the organic side as well as the paid side. And then finally, SEMRush, pretty similar to SEMRush, no pun intended there. A little fancier, a little bit more data, but way more expensive. Almost $100 a month. What I would recommend is they have a free version. Do the 7-day trial, and then determine whether that information is valuable enough to you to justify $100 a month. And if it isn't, that's fine. Just go back to SEMRush. SEMRush is still really, really good information. And that's it. Thank you very much. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, I actually include a couple more case studies and a few other tips and tricks. And if you want it, just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to send it your way.